Well, hey there everyone, welcome back, it's Snoo, and I have a surprise for you. I know you didn't see this coming, but I'm showcasing a bow build. Yes, a bow build. Yeah, me, making a bow build. Who would have thought I'd come out with a bow build? Well, here we are in the middle of the league. This is the final stretch of my journey with Elemental Hit, of the Spectrum or not, whatever the case be. This will be the end of the road for any sort of pure Elemental-based build for me this league. I really can't imagine that I not going to take advantage of the Fizz to element conversions, all the bonuses that come with the Fizz's extra damage through the Headhunter and through Hatred and all that other good stuff. This league, I'm going to need it even more than last league, which if you had said that last league, I'd say you're out of your mind. Certainly they're going to make the game easier, the end game easier than last league. But no, it's even harder than last league. Well, anyway, this build packs quite a punch, and I definitely did pull out a lot of stops to make it as powerful as it is. So excited to bring this showcase to you. I think a lot of you would like to play a build like this. Surprisingly low budget for the amount of power. And yeah, before you meme me, I know, a few hundred divines, low budget. Well, compared to multi-mirror tier gear, this is actually kind of a low budget for the amount of power it is. We'll look into the path building and see some of the numbers at the end. But first, of course, I'll tell you a little bit about the build background, why I evolved it in this direction. And we'll do a map showcase where I'll showcase you some meat sacks back to basics scarab farming, which is pretty much the hardest content that I've done to date, outside of trying to do shape or touch farming, but yeah, that's a little bit of a stretch on this build. Then we'll get into the gear, the skill gems, jewels, passives, yeah, and then, like I said, path building at the end, just like we usually do. So there the character is, right in front of you, looking like some kind of archer straight from the Crusades. Pretty cool. The MTX just keeps getting better on my characters, but yet I'm not using any MTX, so that's pretty cool, right? Actually, I am using MTF because I'm getting rid of this butt-ugly helmet. Definitely suggest you take the MTX to remove the helmet because it looks real bad in terms of, synergizing with the remainder of the look of the character. So, this character has a wild combination of gear. We will talk about it in a few minutes. I actually did make a separate video on some of these items. Essentially, what's going on here, though, and the cool thing about this build that's so different from anything before, is it is basically a three-way hybrid build. It is a hybrid magic find, hybrid bosser, and hybrid mapper. So it's a mapper because it has, a bow, a quiver, and a headhunter. That's obviously a mapper, right? It's a magic find build because it has a Ventor's Gamble, Goldworm, and Divination Distillate. So we got 40% quant and, upwards of 100% rarity as well. So, not full-blown magic find, of course, but for the sake of diminished returns, doing a lot of heavy lifting there with a little bit of magic find. And then it's a bosser because of the helmet and glove combination, and the Nimbus is quite often associated with bossers, although this league, I guess, mapper, perhaps. But yeah, Yoke of Suffering usually going to be kind of a bosser stuff, I think. But anyway, we'll get into the gear combination a little bit more in detail. First, just to clarify, I needed a build that was very strong. I needed to be really powerful, especially against these sort of Anarchy all flames, meat sack all flames stuff. I mean, these mob pack quite a punch. You really got to kill fast, and you can either go way off the deep end and try to build a super tanky character, not all that viable with the bows, or you can go off the other side of the deep end and just try to make a character that can just blitz stuff down really fast. And this is actually a Secrets of Suffering build. Secrets of Suffering is core to it, and that means I can't chill or freeze, so really got to do a lot of damage here, and we're getting that through Soul Eater primarily. There are a few defensive layers in the build, but it's definitely lacking major defense. We'll just put it that way. So I actually have the map already in here. I'll be doing an atlas here to show you. This is kind of a meat sacks all-in scarab farm. Every single scarab node possible has been taken, except for, obviously some things I don't want to take all of these. I don't necessarily want to block all of them, but in terms of increased chance to drop scarabs and increased modifiers on the maps, back to basics. I mean, it doesn't max out much more than this. It's kind of cool. It definitely feels like a Wandering Path thing, except without the juice, I guess. Definitely lacking juice. But the monsters in here are crazy hard because they're going to be primarily meat sacks monsters. Well, depends on how many meat sacks I put on the map. But anyway, I'm going to be using Hunted Traders because this just adds a ton of monsters on the map. And, I sometimes use like the mirrored rare thing. But I think this adds even more monsters on the map. So I'm going to go with this one. And, oh, look, Cluster's still selling. That's cool. Then we're going to do Horned Scarab of Glittering. Now, this is This is a kind of sleeper favorite scarab of mine. I don't think it's all that useful for this strat because quite often I'm just kind of killing meat sacks mobs down slowly and I don't really get any benefit. But man, that is a lot of extra magic find. Even if you're getting almost no value from this, you're getting a lot of value from it. Seriously, it's pretty crazy how strong this is. And I personally feel like it's dirt cheap for how much value it gives, especially if you're doing any kind of real magic finding strat. Especially if you're not doing something like I'm doing where I kill monsters pretty slowly, as you'll see, because of the strategy. Then I'm doing a Horned Scarab of Nemesis. This is the most important scarab. It's the one that really helps elevate the loot drops at the end. And well, I don't think I need to explain the scarab too much. I think you kind of understand where I'm going with that. But back to basics scarab setup, scarab's pretty flexible. There's not a whole lot you can do with it because you can't add stuff on the map anyway. But here we go. We're going to use increased quantity of items found. And we're going to activate. And we're hoping for some good stuff here. It actually matters quite a bit. I'm really hoping for increased quantity of items found. Didn't see it. That, if I'm not mistaken, looks like the Kitava Herald types, which I don't want that mob type on the map at all. And, for the showcase, I'll make it a little easier on myself. Just do 1 meat sack. I would usually try to do 2. And then quite often try to make it a little easier where I can, with, I don't know. Something like that. If I find like another hard mob type, I might just try and make it easier. But I don't know. It doesn't really matter that much. We're going to take evasion all the way out of here. The lowest pack size. We're going to hit enter. And I'm probably not going to do this whole map. In fact, I'm probably going to die at someplace through it. And we'll just pause it there. But I want to showcase this for you right now. And one of the reasons why I want to showcase this is because this is kind of why I built the character, to try to push into content like this. Now, you can watch a recent video of mine where I'm doing tier 17 Delhi speed farming for cluster jewels and get a better sense of, what the build is capable of doing in terms of fast-paced gameplay. But this is kind of what the build is capable of doing on content that, man, I'm telling you, really pushes the limits of what bows can do, especially non-fizz bow setup. So I got to really try hard to ramp up. It's very important that I do. I see I get some Soul Eater pretty fast, and this glove helmet combo comes in very strong with this kind of content, because I'm going to have the meat sacks mob. They're just going to kind of be chasing me around a little bit. Either I'm killing them a little bit extra fast, or I haven't seen one yet. I'm not really sure. It's a little bit bizarre. Oh, maybe I am killing them pretty fast. Yeah, doing good. Well, it just means I haven't ran into one with crit resistant regen yet. Because that's when it gets really squirrely. Yeah, we'll hit a crit resistant one soon, and then it'll... Is that it? No, that's just a Soul Eater. Oh, okay. But yeah, you can see something. There's something to be had here with this build. I got projectiles going out all over the place. I'm getting big. I'm golden. My chest gives me a cool divinity buff. I got Windward in the build now. We'll talk about that a little bit. Crazy ascendancy point combos here. So I haven't ran Windward since the Soul Thirst days. That's pretty wild. But kind of wishing I put 2 meat sacks on here because it's kind of a waste. Since this has a... What is it? How many extras? 247% more scarabs. It's kind of good. We're getting a little bit of ice prison action there, where I made a kind of in a separate video, kind of made comments on how strong that is with here. A little bit niche, but kill this many rare mobs, I always steal ice prison at some point. And the AoE seems to overlap off the ice prisons. Do way more damage than I'm supposed to, maybe? I don't know. Got a Chris Wilson scarab there. That's nice. Love to see that. It's not worth as much, though, these days. Kind of sad. Chris Wilson's left the building. Too soon. Too soon. Hey, what the heck? Waiting for this stuff to get out of here. Yeah, I'll show you the boss in a minute. I actually kind of want to make sure It's more important to me that I kill the mobs, the meat sacks, than the boss. I don't really care about the boss, to be honest. But when I'm riding high on the Headhunter buffs, we're going to make sure we do right by this map. So I could have done a little bit better job. I know I skipped a little down here. Anyway, not a bad job. Not a bad job. Definitely fewer meat sacks than usual because I usually put 2 or maybe even 3 on there. But the map mods were incredibly easy. I think Petrified was the only thing that was really hard. All right, I'm not looking forward to this part, but you know, don't ask me to, you know, show you how good I am at bossing. Not good. Everybody keeps talking about how these maps are harder than the Uber bosses. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a different breed. I don't know how that's easier than the actual map, but anyway, you just sneeze and you die basically on that boss. But anyway, there we go. The map's clear. All right, you know, I did the map. The meat sacks are done. We used to be ghosting those meat sacks, but not anymore. So honestly, I was a little surprised at how fast I killed them. I have been running these builds a little bit, but basically the issue is that if I have even one single modifier on the map that increases the monster's EHP, it takes like 2 or 3 or 4 times as much time to kill them, and it's just really brutal. So definitely looking forward to switching to Fizz. But anyway, let's start with the bow that I have. So this gear set that I'm about to show you, you might find this hard to believe, but it is basically around 400 divines, which means it's actually less than a mirror. And that's surprisingly cheap, especially probably given what you saw, the kind of power threshold that you saw. Most people definitely believe that for bows, you need to have mirror tier gear to even attempt to do tier 17s with like meat sacks farms and stuff like that. Hopefully I just kind of proved that that's not really the case. Although you need to roll the maps really well, of course. And I am going for Fizzba. I mean, still, that is the goal. That is the top of the mountain, of course. But, you know, this is a 30 divine bow, this league. Not with the synth inputs. I got lucky with the synth input. But look, I mean, it's a perfect bow, basically, without the implicits. And without the +2 arrows, it's basically a perfect bow. So that's cool, right? And we got a quiver here that is easy to roll. This is where I'm getting the frenzied charges. Yeah, you know, it costs a little bit. The base is like 18 div or whatever. So it's about the same. It's like 30, 40 div as well. The bow is, of course, crafted through Necropolis. I should have said that. Necropolis crafted bow. There's a ton of these floating out on trade now. And you can get that easily through Necropolis. Then we have, let's see, I don't even know what to go to next. I said it's a mapping build because it's got a bow, quiver, and headhunter. So to the headhunter in the hand. Welcome to the world's cheapest headhunter. I don't know. Last time I checked it was like 18 div, but I guess it's like 14 div now. So just keeps going down. Just keep going down. So that basically concludes all the mapping things. You could say Nimbus is part of the mapping stuff. Now, I bought this Nimbus when it was like 90 div, and it's now 113 div apparently, so that gets pretty crazy. The other super expensive items, there's only 2, Nimbus and Progenesis, both extremely strong for this build. 1 for offense, 1 for defense. Of course, Progenesis for defense, around 80 div there. So, I mean, my God, like basically half of the budget of the build is in these 2 items alone. Because, you know, we do have another 50, 60 divines, or about 60 divines between the bow and the quiver, and a little bit for the headhunter. Then we get to the sort of bossing stuff, and that would be the gloves, especially in combination with the helmet. And I'm not going to speak on too much on this because I've already made a separate video on it. But basically, the helmet is the new Calm Spirit, and it relies on you to actually have some mana cost, which is convenient because I can't bench craft it on the suffix of the flask anymore. So I'm going to have mana cost of my skills. And then you need to try to attack as fast as possible to keep your rage as high and keep it replenishing as much as possible. You need to have mana leech, obviously, in the process. Well, that makes these 2 items incredibly strong together. If you are hitting rare or unique monsters periodically, which you definitely will be if you're doing meat sacks, anything, or anarchy, anything. Or you're not killing really fast, or you're doing bosses or whatever. So, huge believer in this glove helmet combo. I was wearing Rampage gloves, and my God, that was a good decision to drop the Rampage gloves when I started fighting. Can you believe for a hot second I was running Rampage gloves doing that exact same strat? Man, that was stupid. That's really stupid. I couldn't believe how much power spike I got when I added these gloves in. And they do count for when you steal the Soul Eater buff, it gives you 55. Now, when the Soul Eater buff falls off, it unfortunately drops all the way down to 0, regardless of what you're doing. So that sucks, but anyway. Gotta pay a price somewhere, I guess. Yoke of Suffering is a big deal here because we have Secrets of Suffering, so that means a Brittle, Scorch, Sap, and I'm using skitter bots, so we still get chill and freeze, and I could potentially be poisoning and or bleeding. However, unlike with the next iteration of the build, with this iteration of the build is not really a way for me to do any physical damage that would bleed or poison. But that's okay, because you can just steal them as headhunter buffs anyway and guarantee to bleed and poison even if you're not doing physical damage, because if you just steal the buff bleeds, you actually bleed everything anyway, I think. So that's that. Next would be the magic find stuff, which would be the boots. +1 maximum endurance charges. I like movement speed, but hey, I like not dying even more, so we'll go for that. Then we got Event Towards Gamble, which is superbly rolled, minus the quantity and rarity stuff. So that's why it's kind of cheap, not too expensive. I was talking about the price of everything. The helmet and gloves, they were each like 20 or 30 div. Helmet's gone up a bit with this reservation efficiency thing, I think. The gloves are nothing. The Ventors was 15 div. And the rest of the flasks are basically nothing. I was running Dying Sun, but I really wanted to get a Jade Flask back into the build. I'll tell you, I'll hopefully remember to tell you why at the end when we look at the POB. It's a very specific reason why I subbed out Dying Sun for a Jade Flask. All right, and then, yeah, I think that's it for the gear. So now for the skill gems. We'll start with the main skill gem, Element of the Spectrum, 2123. Oh, whoops, I forgot the chest, didn't I? I was about to say 23 quality because it affects the damage in the chest. Well, anyway, Garb of the Ephemeral, can't forget about this, is probably the most off-meta thing I'm doing now, especially as it pertains to many people waking up to the idea of the helmet and the glove combo. Even still, very off-meta choice. I can wear it because I have Supreme Ostentation, which is really cool. So I get the luxury of wearing it, where most people with anyone with a lethal pride can't, basically. This helmet is not some magical wonder, all-powerful helmet, but it is pretty extraordinary in its own right. A very niche helmet. So one of the best things I like about it is nearby enemies cannot deal critical strikes. Let me just go back in here and see if I... Oh, okay, this is not a map that has increased critical... Darn, that's too bad, because I would have loved to have shown you how much increased critical strike monsters had if I had thrown in that map. I don't know. Somewhere in here. No? Really? I don't have a single map rolled with mobs have crit? Surely I got one. Surely I have one in here. There we go. Thank you, finally. So, like a map like this, monsters have 368% increased critical strike. You have 42%. Guess what happens at number when you do back to basics? That's just ass-kickingly high number. You need to have some serious damage reduction against crit to survive that. And that's something my build can do with this chest. It's really cool. You can have that. Most of the time, crits are only coming from melee anyway, in most cases, so that works out. Now, the other cool thing about the chest is Divine Charges. So, Divine Charges, you look this up on PoE Wiki if you want. Every second, with an internal cooldown of a second, when I hit, well, every hit with an internal cooldown of 1 second, I get a Divinity Charge. When I get 10, suddenly they will count down from 10 seconds. So, it's a 50% uptime. What does the buff give me? It gives me 50% more elemental damage. More elemental damage. That is like unforeseen told of damage increase from a single chest item. So an average of 25% more damage, but it's actually better because you can orient your characters and kill windows to match up with that if you're actually really good at the game, which sometimes I am, sometimes. But anyway, and that buff also gives you curse immunity, which is really cool. I think I was running reduced effective curses, but I decided on a whim to drop it because of that, actually. And then the other thing it gives is 20% less elemental damage taken, which is even better for a sort of kill window, stand your ground, just nuke something down, take less damage in the process. So it's very, very powerful buff that you get from this. Now, unfortunately, it's the wrong base, Energy Shield. And unfortunately, if I put it here, I would love to have Ghost Dance, but it would be really nice for the build. For standard players out there, you can maybe anoint Ghost Dance on it. It would be really strong. But I have the Elegant Hubris there, so can't do it. Anyway, yeah. Sorry, chest done. Now, we finally move to the gems. I suppose I should give an honorable mention to the implicit there, the unique way to get power charge on crit. Obviously, many different ways to do that, and a little bit of extra DR, as you can see. Was running a chest that was a little bit more damage oriented, but I decided to opt back for the defensive and power charge convenience there. All right, now moving on to the gems. Got Elemental Head of the Spectrum connected to the 5 highest damage supports, basically. Trinity, increased critical damage, Inspiration. I was running without Inspiration, but it was just too much. It just costs too much, man. It's a little bit unreasonable. You can go back and watch the VOD and you can see I was generating a lot of rage as it was. So, yeah, I think these are the 5 best. You could drop Mirage Archer if you wanted. Something else, I don't know. But yeah, that packs quite a punch and does get impacted by increased levels of skill gems. So pretty good indeed. Then we have the other 6 link, and I ended up going back to the old school artillery ballista setup. And the main reason for this is not just because it gives the most damage out of any other damage 6 link, support 6 link you can do, but because it synergizes incredibly well through the focus ballista support with reliable soul leader buffs. That is where the real magic of this 6 link comes in. That's why it's just so effing much damage because of that. Now, I could have a Mana Forge 6 link in here or an Aura 6 link in or whatever. Any sort of Mana Forge 6 link. I'm not actually running a Mana Forge link on this build, surprisingly. Any sort of Mana Forge link is not going to be able to take advantage of the extreme attack speed of Soul Leader. It's still got to go through the GCD on that. So, not much synergy there. Terrific synergy with the ballista setup, and I need the damage. Let's face it, I need the damage. So got to see that a little bit in action in the mapping showcase. You see the crazy amount of artillery rain fire that dropped there. So that's why that's there, as opposed to some other thing. I would love to have a support damage 6 link. That's one of the reasons why I had to put power charges here, which is a little annoying, but it worked. Then we got Petrified Blood, so moving up to here. So I got Petrified Blood, Grace, Skitterbots, and Unbound Awaken support. Awaken, Unbound. Ailment support, sorry, in the right order. This takes my Skitterbots from 18% to 28% shock. And gives me a little bit stronger chill, I guess. But yeah, it's really about the shock. And that's fine if I got an extra gem slot and the reservation for it. I ended up dropping Anger at some point to do this. I realized Anger wasn't doing anything for the build, really. I already have tons of flat damage anyway. It's not that important. So this was a very good choice to make this kind of my aura setup. And then the other aura setup in the Petrified Blood side, we got Vitality, Dread Banner, Precision, the usual. Just the usual. And that gives me about this much space. So I press Divination Distillate. It takes a little while to climb up. And, well, without Mana Forge link, I don't drain life very quickly. A life tap Mana Forge. So it can be a little bit of a problem here. However, it's not that big of a problem when A, I'm taking any damage at all, or B, when I have 55 Soul Eater stacks. I'm attacking fast enough that the life cost component here, when I'm above 50% life, kicks in pretty well. Then we have Berserk, because of course we use the helmet for Berserk. And yeah, I know somebody's going to ask, well, what about Snoo? What about the Rage? Your Rage does give you attack speed or cast speed or attack damage. So what? Who cares? I get Berserk. Berserk still gives me more attack speed, more movement speed, less damage taken. Berserk still works totally fine, and that's all I really care about. It would be nice if the Rage was authentic Rage and gave me the buffs for that. It still gives me the movement speed, but anyway, just keep it there. Berserk's the real deal. Flame Dash, yeah, pretty self-explanatory. Mark on hit, Sniper's Mark. So I like Mark on, or I don't like Mark on hit very much. I like Cast on Crit, Sniper's Mark, but I can't fit it in. So I'm going to have to settle for a Mark on hit. That's okay. Not doing Warlord's Mark. I'm definitely not doing Warlord's Mark anymore when we got this helmet in the game. Yeah, when we have this helmet in the game, Warlord's Mark is dead to me, at least up until the point where you get this helmet. If you've never tried this helmet, do yourself a favor and try it. And if you possible, pair it with these gloves. And then do hard content with it. And then, raise your chin because it's going to be on the floor when you see how much power that is. Anyway, there we go. That's it for the gem links, I believe. Yeah, pretty simple gem links there. Again, with no mana forge setup. Pretty wild. All right. Jewels. So we already talked about Elegant Hubris a little bit. There's a couple different seeds I like here, but this one I have here. I'll show you the notables in a moment. But anyway, this is primarily for Supreme Ostentation. Also conveniently sets me up to the Mana Reservation Efficiency Mastery, though I'm not even taking this one over here. So it's kind of a either or would be fine. We have the Interrogation, and that's to spark more value out of elemental hit. So 15% more element on enemies plus skitterbots. That's 5 times 15, and then 5 times 10 over here in Yoke. Very, very good there. Storm Shroud. All right, I'll go ahead and spill the beans on that. Storm Shroud is for this. Rule Life, 80% chance to avoid shock, combined with 20% element avoidance here. And we have a Watcher's Eye. Now, for the longest time, I did not have the Vitality mod on here. I had the other two. Totally fine. I don't actually think I get that much value of the Vitality mod, so I know there's going to be some people who maybe be a little bit upset. You know, for the few of you who are trying to copy the build, if you are, you really don't need these 3 exact ones. I would recommend evade attacks and then something else. Damage or Vitality, life on hit, fine, whatever it is. You know, we got Leech with instant Leech. It's good. Then I have basically the best Corrupted Blood basic jewel that money could buy at the time. And I don't really look at these anymore. This was hilariously cheap. All these jewels are cheap. All of them are. And so that's how this gets under like 400 divines in budget, which is crazy. Even the Massive Thread of Hope is cheap. Although the large Thread of Hope is surprisingly expensive. I went ahead and paid a little bit extra. I saw a really good one for like 50 div with this corruption. Felt like that was a worthy investment for how strong this was. And I'd probably be using it for the rest of the league. Yeah, so we went with that. So that is it for the jewels. We're here now. We can go straight into the passives. We'll start with the Elegant Hubris Special Notables. This is not the seed I used last time. A little bit different. Cool little 37 Chaos Reds. I mean, that's nice, right? That's nice. I usually have like negative Chaos Res without the flask. Now I have 47 with it up. That's actually halfway respectable. And I'm not even doing reverse chill anymore. We have Crit Multi, so it's a nice excuse again to get the Mana Reservation Efficiency because they're actually a good notable there. I'm going up to Supreme Ostentation anyway. And we got Gain Endurance Charge every second you've been hit recently. Now, the reason why I switched to this seed is because I wanted this notable, and I wanted to pull out Endurance Charge Call to Arms. I wanted that out because I wanted to, fit these gem links in here. That was a conscious choice I made. And yeah, definitely a good idea. I can also run it on the chest. This mod does spawn on the chest as well as a synth implicit. But anyway, this works out nice. This is a really strong seed for this purpose. If you have this set up, 80% critical strike chance, which if I have full brittle on the target, doesn't mean anything. But most, against a really hard target boss, I don't have full brittle. 80% chance to avoid shocks, mandatory in conjunction with Storm Shroud. And projectile attack damage is probably the strongest damage node. So again, it's Chaos Res, Crit Multi, Crit Chance, Endurance Charge, Shock Avoidance, and projectile attack damage with a grand total of 3 points, extra points wasted spent. Sorry, 2. Only 2. 1, 2. Whew, that's some pretty good value. Pretty good. And the rest of the passives will be some of the usual stuff here. Blood Siphon. Normally I would take this, but I don't need it. Hired Killer. Quick Step. Not Suppressed Cap, by the way. Then we got Aspect of Links. Forces of Nature. Very, very typical stuff there. On this wheel, we have Multi-Shot. Actually doing Wind Dancer now. Aspect of the Eagle. One Nature. I guess this one doubles down, huh? Primeval Force, except I'm connected to it, and Master Flexure. Prioritizing all of the crit wheel stuff, of course, increased to reduction and projectile speeds. Applies with both. Sorry, forgot to mention the Anoint on Yoke of Suffering. Vengeance Cascade gives 150% increased projectile speed for returning projectiles. I didn't mention this in the map showcase, but with Nimbus, Nimbus actually does more than just double damage. You don't need to pierce for it to do damage. Even just with any fork or chain, it somehow works off itself, and it will hit the target twice. And if you're standing in the middle of its hitbox, every single returning projectile has a chance to clip the target. In other words, effectively a shotgunning effectively return projectiles, which means that's huge value out of Venging Cascade, because if anything, more of my projectiles I'm going to get more projectile damage from inbound projectiles rather than outbound projectiles in virtually every case. So that's a huge amount of added damage there. That's why I'm doing Venging Cascade of all things. So pretty cool. You can look this up in the wiki. It does claim to synergize with returning projectiles. Although I haven't double checked that. Okay, just quickly got that out of the way. Getting a little bit of spell suppression here, but relying on lucky. Definitely relying on lucky. Yeah, nowhere near suppress cap, so cutting some corners there. Getting some phasing here. Chance to blind. Should be getting blind. Should be filling things out with stun immunity if possible. And getting cold res to match up nice. You see my resistance situation's pretty nice. Should probably go out of my way to get a little bit of extra fire res, actually. Yeah, but anyway. There we go. All the life nodes I would normally take. I forgot to mention the jewels in the cluster jewels, didn't I? Okay, so we have the usual Feed the Fury, Martial Prowess, Fuel the Fight. Stereotypical bow cluster there for Leech. And excellent with Petrified Blood setup. Then over here, I have a unique way to get all 3 exposures. It's really nice. Some increased AoE damage is nice. This is a suffix. And some extra resistance. Just an overall strong notable here. So primarily the choice here is to get the triple exposure. For sure. This isn't the super most mandatory, most necessary cluster, but anyway, it gives me 2 jewel slots, so it's nice. One last thing to mention is the Ascendancy, which there is something, a little special attention should be given here. So, not doing Far Shot. Nimbus likes Far Shot, but it also likes Ricochet too, so, you have to choose, or you can, use a Forbidden Flame Flesh Jewel or something, get 5. Of course, we always like to use Focal Point. With the Warlord's Mark setup, I would mandate they use Focal Point. The Sniper's Mark didn't necessarily have to do it. But surprisingly pulled out a Focal Point to get Windward. Windward is a curious choice here. So what Windward does is gives me up to 30% less damage taken when I'm attacking. As long as I'm attacking regularly. So long as I don't get hit just 10 times a second or something, which I'm not normally going to happen, especially if I have something like Wind Dancer. And the nice thing about that is we're going to see in the POB in a second that this Wind Dancer is enabling me to have essentially evasion cap, extremely close to it. So tying everything together is really nice. That is coming through the Jade Flask. That's why I went to the Jade Flask. It's coming from Dread Banner. And it's coming from the Watcher's Eye. And then it's coming from Wind Dancer. And that's how I'm able to essentially hit evasion cap without hardly any evasion on gear. A little bit on the boots. A little bit on the gloves. None on the helm. None on the chest. So that's pretty hard to do. But that was a unique way to get really, really high evasion. Of course, Grace. Sorry, I forgot to mention it. Yeah, level 21 Grace, obviously, plays some role in that. But yeah, that's it for the passive. So, we're to the final step. We'll go to the calculations, and you can see here, well, first I'll bring your attention to the worst part about it, I guess, and that's the maximum physical hit taken. 12,000. That's pretty low. Not the worst thing in the world. It would be really good if I could get cast when damage taken Immortal Call on this build. I have to admit, it would be good. I would definitely see a real practical increase to my defensive layers. And I've been thinking about it, really railing my head against that one, trying to figure out if and how I might do that. But I just don't want to break down my current links. I really don't want to break them down. So I think in order to do that, I would have to get a Forbidden Flame Flesh, a Master Surgeon setup to drop the whole this link right here, the Dread Banner Vitality Precision, just for precision. Maybe even drop Dread Banner completely. But yeah, with the current budget, okay, that would dramatically increase the budget of the build. So again, 400 div or less budget, not viable. You can see that evasion is 85%. If I go in here and I say you have been hit by an attack recently, boom, 94%, one away from cap. Whew, feels good, man. Feels good to hit that number. Anyway, you can see a ton of ailments going on here. You can see a high crit chance, 5.29 on the crit multi. Means everything gets shredded unless it's crit resistant. Chance to blind, really high chance to hit. I mean, even this is almost a wasted point here. It went down to 99% chance. But I really like it in case I get hit by, you know, something. If I get blinded or something like that, or deal less accuracy. Really nice. Yeah, you can take a look at this. The spreads here, you can see Trinity works extremely well. Effective health pool of 26,000. Actually, sorry, that's it's 30,000 if I haven't been hit recently anyway. And suppression, yeah, not really 93%. It's really 74 with phasing, with suppression lucky. Pretty good. Pretty good to have that. That's a pretty decent setup. Cold res tattoos saving the day here. Gonna be cold res. Capped. Increased effect modifiers for elemental ailments coming in big here. 70% in total. Yeah, pretty clean. So, a lot of similarities between this build and some other Magic Find builds. Major similarities. I mean, this whole wheel thing here looks almost exactly like my build last league. But the gear is what's really different. The gear is what's really different about this setup. Full DPS, 115 million. What in the world? This is actually a bossing setup with that, by the way. That is with actual bossing stuff. So, Vengeance Cascade, half value. Again, this actually be worth more than half value. It can't be input anywhere in the config for some reason. But anyway, that's with power charges, frenzy charges, endurance charge. All would be up during a fight. 55 soul eater stacks would be up on a boss. Phasing, if I got, you know, whatever. Divinity would be up half a time. So if you take this off, you can see the DPS number drop down a lot. Everything else looks in order. Shock, half shock effect, half sap, half brittle, half scorch. Yeah, seems about right. Exposed, enemy exposed, everything. That's pretty crazy. You can see just how much insane value soul. Look at that. What in the world? Now that is because of this here. So, you know, artillery ballista is almost half the damage. But this is actually only, you know, it's really 28, by the way. It's not 14, a maximum. But you're not going to get hit with, you know, 4 different totems with 7 arrows in each totem. It's not going to happen most of the time. You know, about half effectiveness. Seems about realistic, I guess. That's kind of why I have 14 there. And then Elemental Hit the Spectrum does have a return projectile. It's guaranteed to hit at least twice. So you can see a lot of added damage there. So that's it, guys. That is the build. Final look here. Where did my portals go? Damn. I guess I lost all that currency. I didn't drop that much stuff in there anyway. Oh, well. Did it for the map showcase. So hopefully you like the build. And again, this is the final iteration of this build. We got a mirror in the bag. So this sucker is going to a Fizzbow today off stream. So look forward to that setup. I'm not even 100% sure what I'm going to do. I'm going to be like a kid in Candyland trying to test a few different things on the Fizz stuff. But yeah, look forward to the next iteration, which will be a Fizz conversion build. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I have all kinds of links down in the description, including path of building, atlas that was used, the filter that was used, Omega Strict, and yeah, just all kinds of stuff down there. Anyway, that's it for me for now. I will be working on this next iteration of the build and working on some new strategies, some more meat sack farming stuff. Hopefully it gets even easier as I get as I crank the budget up beyond a full mirror. Definitely after this. That's it for me. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.